Welcome to This Week in Final Fantasy XIV, where I talk about the latest news and developments surrounding the game. Since this is the first episode, I'm going to discuss things that didn't all happen in the current week, just to catch you up on what's relevant here in the second week of December. We have a few different things to talk about this week, including 2 different cheating scandals, the future of the world race, the balance of Pictomancer being put back into the spotlight, and a charity event that you won't want to miss. Let's start off with the biggest news coming from the World Racer Futures Rewritten Ultimate. If you aren't aware by now, the very first team to clear, Team Grind, was disqualified from the World Race after being caught using third-party tooling in a celebratory screenshot posted on Twitter. This marks 3 major ultimates in a row now that have been plagued by a cheating incident of some kind, now with a lot of community attention. The mod in question is likely a tool known as Pixel Perfect, which allows you to see exactly where your character's hitbox is. While most people don't consider this to be a huge advantage, there are still 2 issues here. 1, if one mod was used, how many more were involved that weren't visible in the screenshot? And 2, regardless of if you personally consider it to be cheating, any third-party tool usage is against the terms of service of the game. Even if other tools involved like ACT also count as third-party, anything that results in visible changes to the game has been especially frowned upon by Yoshi P, even resulting in a team losing their achievements in the past and having their weapons removed. More importantly, Yoshi P has even threatened to stop making ultimates if all they do is get tons of people to cheat at the game. This issue prompted Frosty, the main host and organizer of the World Race, to come up with a new set of rules for future races. First, he released a rule set that would have banned all add-ons, including quality of life add-ons like No Clippy, that many players consider necessary to play with since it mainly compensates for the poor netcode in the game to fix weaving issues. If you didn't know, unless you live really close to the data centers, it's highly likely that there are weaves that you can't do without clipping, and that's why No Clippy exists. After getting pushback on this, we got a revised rule set that many people were a lot happier about. Number 1. All rulings and bans by Square will be reflected on the Mog Talk leaderboard. Number 2. No add-ons that change intentional game design are allowed. Number 3. No data mining attempts to be made by members of the team or players who support them. And number 4. All teams must have at minimum 1 player streaming live, and VOD should persist. While Frosty does acknowledge that data mining is impossible to detect, the requirement of a stream is a huge change for the race since teams clearing off-stream has always been a controversial topic. Most people don't find it exciting to see someone winning a race when they can't see it happen, which I think is pretty easy to understand even if you don't agree with it. Now for the next topic. We also got some insight into the financials behind this recent World Race event, since it was the first time that we actually had a venue with in-person casters, thanks to a partnership between Frosty and Echo Guild. Unfortunately, because this race was a little under 3 days long, the event underperformed as far as revenue goes for Echo. Flights were booked for later dates, since many people expected this to be similar in length to other ultimates, which took closer to a week to clear. That's 3 to 4 days of expected stream revenue that was lost and days at a venue that they didn't end up needing. For an organization used to the higher viewership of World of Warcraft, it's understandable to find this disappointing, and it sounds like Echo will likely scale back how much they invest into the next event, especially if future ultimates will be just as unpredictable as this was in regards to prog time. From what I understand, Echo does have a big interest in legitimizing the world race, including hopefully getting Square directly involved. Yoshi P has usually tried to congratulate the winning team, so I'm expecting some sort of comment about the level of production achieved by the community, and I'd be curious to see what you all think too. Do you want more of a focus on the World Race events and more support for raid launches, or do you not really care as much about it? And for our last topic involving ultimates, there's been a lot of discussion within the community about Pictomancer's dominance. As many people have predicted, Pictomancer's kit is well suited for downtime, so not only is it the strongest job everywhere else in the game aside from PvP, it gets to shine even higher when bringing it into ultimate content. It's at the point where it feels like a mandatory job to bring for most groups, and that some party finders are even locking the job as one of the slots. This goes against the intended balance that 14 Prize itself won. It's not to say that it's impossible to clear without it, but certainly most groups would be a lot further from clearing if they had to use a less damaging job instead. The last time we saw jobs being forced in any way was Abyssos, and it seems like the dev team does not enjoy when that happens. They don't want players to be limited or forced to play one job. However, unlike Abyssos where the last fight's HP was nerfed, that would probably be very controversial to do to an ultimate. Many people have been calling for Pictomancer nerfs for a while, with frustrations that Square would rather ruin the balance of the game, leading to faster than intended clears just to make Picto players happy. Just like what we saw with the first 4 fights of Arcadian Savage, where all other jobs were buffed instead, without tuning the fights for the increased damage output. Just like that raid tier, Futures Rewritten Ultimate has the most week 1 and 2 clears of any ultimate in the history of the game. I'm not here to say that this is a good or bad thing, and I've seen compelling arguments on both sides. For example, some people are saying that not every ultimate needs to be as hard as DSR or top, and I do remember how burnt out many raiders were from that. However you feel about this, Pictomancer certainly plays a critical part as long as it's allowed to be as strong as it is, especially compared to the other jobs in the caster role. Next up, FF Logs has run into a similar situation where a top speeds team from Japan was also caught cheating. Through the result of internal investigation being sparked by players looking into replays and logs of team exception, FF Logs announced that they are fully banning all members of the team and their alts entirely from the website. More importantly, this has sparked the process to update the rules to be much stricter about cheating to preserve the integrity of the rankings. While the specifics haven't been laid out yet, like the World Race, FF Logs will require footage of all of the clears, as well as multiple logs to verify a rank, at least at the top end, as well as banning certain plugins such as Splatoon that are obvious cheating tools. I think that this is a great direction, and I'd be curious to see how it impacts teams and players that go for parsing as well. And now for some more positive news. The Wish Upon a Realm Festival is taking place this weekend. The event, which is organized by FFXIV tubers, is a massive charity event for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, featuring a 3-day livestream marathon with many events and hosts from throughout the community. I took part last year and it was a great way to bring the community together for something good. And if you're one of the people struggling with stuff to do, this is a great way to get involved and find some new fun for a good cause. These kinds of player-organized events are one of the unique charms of MMOs in my opinion, and you're missing out if you don't take part. Anyway, I hope that this was useful for you, and I'll see you in the next one.